Just stay.
Hi, my name's Jordan Marshall and I'm the Chief Reporter at Building Magazine. I'm so excited to be hosting another session of Social Value Live. I've got a really great panel for you today. We have Michael Squire, who you can't see at the moment, but is on the call, so you will be hearing from him. We have Karen Dunlop, Sarah Roos, and Michelle McSorley as well. So I'm really excited to have another social value session. This morning's one was great, and I'm sure this one will be just as good. Just a few logistical things. Each of our speakers is going to give around a 10-minute presentation about the topic, and then we're going to have a group Q&A session. So please feel free to send through your questions at any time. They'll come through to me, and then we'll try and get as many of them answered for you as possible. The other thing is that this session will be available on demand at the conclusion, because we always get multiple people asking that in the chats. So it will be available by the same link you joined today within about 45 minutes of the end of the session. So if you want to pass it on to a colleague or anything like that, that's completely fine. That's probably it for me for now. I'm just going to hand over to Karen, who's going to kick things off for us. So Karen, I'll give you make presenter. Brilliant. Oh. Perfect.
1 second.
Brilliant. I'll leave it with you.
Is that okay? Can you see that screen okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the very first webinar that I have actually been part of, so whole new experience. Really interesting to be here. Slightly unusual because I am literally just talking to my my slide deck. Can't see anybody, so hopefully it all works out okay. So what I wanted to do really was just to kind of take you through, as Jordan said, sort of like 8–10 minute chat discussion, exploring, I suppose, the kind of importance or the growing importance around social value, addressing some of the kind of the challenges and considerations that we have in relation to kind of managing and delivering on social value, and then to look at how how we're designing our approach to social value, and how we're responding to the kind of demands and the requirements that we have. So without further ado, I'll get started. And I really wanted to start with this quote, actually, because I think it really sets the scene very, very well in terms of this kind of like the early kind of national infrastructure construction pipeline, £650 billion worth of public and private investment, fairly significant actually in terms of actually having an opportunity for social value, and it really, through this pipeline of work, actually has got the opportunity to really kind of come into its own, and it's got a critical role to play really in kind of transforming the kind of communities and supporting that kind of levelling up agenda and making a sort of significant contribution. So I know everybody will agree about that. There's definitely no there's no challenge there, but again, I think it's really important to kind of discuss that, to bring that to the fore. But I think one of the kind of unique opportunities is that this will not happen on its own. It doesn't just happen. It needs to be completely planned, managed properly, kind of monitored and kind of continuously reviewed in order to get that kind of successful outcomes. And with that, there is the requirement, obviously, for that collaborative approach, connected thinking, and really knowledge sharing with all of the parties, the clients, the consultants, the construction companies. So everybody that's involved, I think they definitely have a part to play, and it's really essential that we get a kind of a transparent, defined approach to maximising the impact and maximising the opportunity, and looking to be kind of truly transformational as the kind of desire would be. In terms of then just a kind of a quick outline, just to kind of identify some of the kind of the key drivers around social value. Obviously, we've got that legislation, the PPN and Social Value Act kind of coming into being, the PPN 0620 coming into being at the beginning of this year, certainly presented a number of challenges for organisations like my own in terms of that frontline professional services organisation, design consultancy. So it's the first time we've really had to kind of respond to legislation around social value. Certainly within construction companies, they've been doing that for a good number of years, and so absolutely are kind of, I suppose, driving the charge on that. But it's also about obviously that maximising the opportunity for investment, contributing, as we said, to that levelling up, and actually addressing the societal changes or challenges that we actually have. And I think everybody would certainly agree that the kind of key thing is that everybody is focused on doing the right things and really and definitely in doing them right, really. We all have a part to play, and we all want to make a contribution. And certainly from my perspective, I've been involved in social value for a number of years now. I can definitely see over the last year the change in the language, the change in the interest, and it almost feels like, yeah, it's come of age. Everybody's interested, everybody's motivated, and they want to really understand it, get behind it, and actually start to kind of do some good stuff. So I think that's fantastic, but obviously there's a number of things that a number of challenges really that we just need to be cognizant of, and it's important to be aware that that how we work together really to remove some of the barriers and to go beyond that kind of compliance piece, and look at opportunities to actually create some good outcomes for people to actually to kind of flourish and to do well. I think certainly in terms of Mott MacDonald and in terms of the kind of infrastructure and kind of built environment just now, there are many competing agendas. And for organisations, I'm sure a lot of them are kind of grappling with, well, where do we go first? How do we decide? What's important? What resources? How do we make these decisions? And what's proportionate? What does actually good look like here? And where is that relevant? There's a real sense of different levels of maturity across the sector, across the environment. You've got some companies that are super mature, doing really well, and kind of outperforming at every stage, while others are very much new to the marketplace and new to this space. And so I think there's definitely a need and a requirement for organisations that are very mature and have really good trust approaches to actually be helping, supporting some of their colleagues or kind of counterparts within the organisation. And certainly the kind of, again, a lot of people think about social value as being that differentiator when responding to client demands or responding to kind of tender questions or demonstrating their commitment. But actually, I think I would question that and think, actually, is that a differentiator, or is a differentiator the kind of the piece around collaboration and the approach that organisations are adopting? And then just again to kind of highlight for any of the colleagues that are in the same space as me, professional services, certainly there are a number of considerations that we're looking at, that we're aware of, and I connect with counterparts and other organisations, and certainly it looks to me very much like we're very much all on the same journey. The social value model is a fantastic framework, and actually I think it's done a fantastic job in terms of actually putting social value very much on the map, and making sure that we are actually delivering against this. However, there's a number of challenges there, and again, I think Social Value Portal are looking at that just now and how we can address that to move that forward. But certainly, there's lots of good stuff. Scope's different, supply chain requirements are different. The ability to kind of influence the kind of like the larger end, the kind of heavy end in construction is different, and then that kind of accountability again is who's accountable, who delivers, how do they deliver, how do we report, all of these kind of good stuff. So these are some of the considerations that we're discussing and we're talking about just now in Mott MacDonald. And really, we have come up with what we think is our kind of overarching view in terms of what good looks like. And it is very much about that leadership position, clearly defined social outcomes, social values. Social is very much part of our kind of company purpose, and that everyone is very much behind that and contributing, all our people, systems and processes. We've got a kind of a core strategy in place to actually address social value. We've allocated resources, we're building our team, and we're beginning to look at our kind of metrics, our processes, our reporting, and actually the insights that we need. So by kind of looking at this system and this process and getting these components in place, it's really allowing us to respond to some of the challenges and some of the considerations that are out there in terms of actually delivering on social value. And in terms of actually designing our approach to social value, we're in the process just now of this kind of creating this social value delivery framework, which is essentially, it consists of kind of 5 core pillars, which is around talent, opportunity, excellence, inclusion, and kind of that kind of good stuff. We've got 5 core pillars, 10 key themes, and over 100 metrics. And the idea is this tool is very much to design to support our teams to deliver social value across their projects and in their locations. It's aimed at actually planning, defining what the metrics might be, and what kind of KPIs, what sort of targets they might be setting themselves, what would be proportionate, what would be realistic. But actually, again, it allows us to kind of capture the good work that we're doing and kind of create our evidence trail. As well as track and monitor the progress. So we're setting up our KPIs and we're monitoring against that, allowing us very much to report internally through our kind of our various governance streams, but also to kind of clients and what we're actually delivering for clients on projects. But I think perhaps for me, one of the most useful tools or the useful outcomes from this is actually is that data and the insights and what this tool actually tells us in relation to what good looks like, what's proportionate, what we're delivering, and how we're actually tracking. At the moment, we're very much in pilot stage with this, and we are looking to kind of roll that out. We've been doing some testing on a number of our kind of key accounts and larger projects, and looking to kind of do a phased rollout into 2020. So very exciting, and a kind of a great opportunity to kind of see where we go and how we get on. So just in terms of actually, I kind of, again, I'm probably over time here, but Mott MacDonald are a fantastic organisation. I've been with the company for probably about 6 or 7 months now, and actually I would have to say, hand on heart, completely overwhelmed by the level of commitment and activity and initiatives and campaigns that as an organisation that we get involved with. And actually where that all comes from is it comes from the top, it comes from our core purpose, but actually in terms of our teams engaging with young people, supporting people to kind of come back into the workplace, opportunities for jobs, for building capacity within our small to medium-sized enterprises, local companies, and generally just kind of looking to do some really good stuff actually as a result of our involvement in projects and as our kind of our corporate being. And finally, really, I think some people will view social value as a bit of a headache. Some people will view it as a bit of a tick box exercise or a kind of compliance-based issue. And certainly, I would just stress that there is an opportunity to actually to kind of go beyond that kind of baseline and to kind of really make social value transformational. And certainly, that's something that we are committed to doing at Mott MacDonald. But it very much goes back to that kind of first point about actually it doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't happen on its own. It needs a dedicated resource. It needs the budget. It needs the kind of like the drive behind it, the systems and the process and the governance to make that all happen. And really, that's about it from me. I'll hand over back
Brilliant.
to.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was a great way. Oh, not Michelle. Sorry, I'm reading who I'm going to switch to. I'm going to hand over to Michael first. Actually, Michael, I'm just going to unmute you because we just muted you there. So that. Hi, Michael. Can you speak for me?
Yep. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I'm going to make you presenter now so that you can share your slides.
Okay.
Brilliant. And thank you so much, Karen. That was a great way to kick things off. I think a really good overview of the topic.
Okay. I'm sorry that I can't put my camera on, but maybe it's just as well at my age. It's probably fine. I'm going to actually just take a particular case, which is us moving our offices about 5 years ago to a new location, and try and explain the ways in which that particular move involved us trying to connect and communicate with the location we were going to. It's very easy when a company moves into a new environment for them to land a little bit like a spaceship and not connect with where they have arrived. And I think that is incredibly important, not to be an alien, but to try to just, not in a patronizing way, but in a positive way, connect with where you have gone to. These were this is the building that we moved to in Brixton. We were originally in King's Cross, where actually we tried very hard. We had street parties. We had a lot of endeavors to connect and communicate with the local environment, the local people. But in a way, King's Cross, being a railway station, is somewhat itinerant. The wonderful thing about Brixton is that it really is a community, but then you have to sort of find the way to engage with it. And certainly when we first announced our plans to move to this building, which was not that lovable when we first saw it, there was some resistance. There were those who sort of felt, oh, this is just gentrification and it's not going to help us and be a positive thing for our environment. So we tried to make a series of moves before we ever actually developed and arrived in the building. During the course of our kind of construction work, we had this kind of street art exhibition. We engaged a lot with local artists and graffiti people who kind of added something to our building and sort of said that something was coming. And we felt that was a sort of positive first step. We also tried as hard as possible to look for tenants who would be natural, rather than, I mean, we had 5 guys named Mo wanted to take our corner building and probably would have paid us a lot more rent, but we actually wanted them to be more connected, more natural. Pure Vinyl, the one in the middle, that's my wife and I with, I forget his name now, but a very celebrated DJ who was terrific fun, and we virtually gave them their little shop. That's the music shop in the bottom left here. Volcano Coffee were quite local. The post office is obviously local, and Sushi Revolution and Canova Hall, kind of good tenants, and they have encouraged a lot of local people to engage with our building. The next thing we did as soon as we opened is we used to, every Christmas, we would get local schools to come and sit in our model shop. They were given some sort of Christmas theme. They would then make these sort of images, which we then converted into Christmas lights with pipe cleaners. We gave them pipe cleaners, and the children made the shapes, and then we replicated them, illuminated them in the windows and turned them on for Christmas. And the school children loved it. This is actually the mayor doing a little sort of presentation of it. And again, it was just fun. It's not, about trying to be too clever, but it again helped us just to connect and to be part of the area we had moved into. We originally, in our basement, had a space that was mainly designed to do with a Monday morning meeting we do when all the office meet and somebody tells the stories of the successes or failures of a project they're doing, and we didn't have much other use for it. And slowly we decided we could make a use for it, which was that it would become an event space. We do yoga there, we do Christmas fairs there, we do exhibitions there, we do quite lively local parties and events there. There's always a little acoustic thing we have to deal with. But again, it was bringing local people into our building, and it was meaning that we weren't, again, dropping from out of space. And finally, we had our staff canteen, which is on the top floor. This is a new floor on top of our building. And we made it into a local members club. It's an extremely low membership. This is not Soho House or anything like this. It is designed for local people to enjoy. It's a wonderful space up there. And we started out with sort of 80 members and thought nothing would ever come of it. We now have about 2,500 members, but we have no, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate, this photograph, because that's actually an architecture club party, so it doesn't show the real range and variety of the of people who are actually members of this club. But it is very varied. We have no judgment on the way in to become a member, but we have 4 rules. The first is you have to respect the staff, you have to respect the other members, you have to respect the neighbours or we lose our license, and then you have to have a really good time. And if you fail on any of those, you're no longer a member. So we judge on how people enjoy and behave in the space rather than on who they are before they come in. We've encouraged all sorts of relationships with Brixton. We're on the Brixton bid. We connect with people, and the Brixton Chamber Orchestra is a brilliant organisation that goes round all the sort of local estates and places and does a sort of range of music, starting really quite hardcore classical and ending up sort of full-on rap. And it's a terrific evening, and they've certainly played in our space a number of times. And then now the next sort of move in what we're doing is we've built this new building on a bit of land we had at the back of our site. It did have consent for 14 flats. We decided we'd much rather it was sort of building on the community of sort of entrepreneurial businesses within our building. And this is a sort of co-working building. It has, again, a sort of bar restaurant at the ground floor, but it has, you know, shared space, fixed desks, small units. It's all about encouraging young local entrepreneurial businesses. I mean, they pay rent. Nobody's saying it's given away for free, but I think it is adding something to the area rather than taking away from it. And we do have our 2 residences. These 2 girls have a free desk for the year. They do really interesting things and promote local activity and local people, and they have a year's free in the building, and we mentor them. The whole point of this building is we're always mentoring young businesses that start in it. So this little picture is meant to communicate our attempt to connect ourselves to Brixton and to make sure that our building brings with it social value, not just here's a new building with people working in it. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael. That was such a great presentation and such an interesting scheme. I'm so glad we got to have some insight into that. Sarah, you're up next, and I'm just going to give myself. If you just wanted to turn your camera on, and I will leave it with you.
Lovely, thank you, Jordan. So I got onto this panel very last minute, so apologies. I don't have any slides, but I will speak to you and maybe take it back and talk about social value a little bit more generally. So my name is Sarah Riss, and I manage social value for Skanska UK on RDP on the M42 Junction 6 project. So I'm going to take it back a little bit and just go over how we are defining social value for anyone that's on the webinar that perhaps works outside this or a similar area. So as a term or concept, I think it can seem quite obscure and like something we're already doing, but I think there are a few differences between social value and the things we're already doing, like corporate social responsibility or community investment or EDI. So the first thing I want to say that I think social value is very much not about the organizational impact that we want to have, but it's about individual and community value. And it's not also just about external impact, it's about reflecting internally as to how and what we do as a business and how that impacts on our staff, our contractors, our supply chain, working on our sites and our offices. And this obviously connects to HR and EDI. And I think another key difference that Karen actually mentioned is that social value is very much a framework and an approach. And in it being that or functioning like that, there's a lot of opportunity to embed social value into all areas of business, of a business team or project in terms of actually delivering social values, the delivery. An example of this is particularly recruitment. So if we're looking at, I'm obviously not saying we should have demographic EDI targets, but if we are looking to have more individuals from underrepresented groups within a business team or project, then that needs to be looked at a lot more localized level, and it needs to be deliberate, right? And that's where social value as a framework or an approach really makes the difference. So internally, we can do the same with HR teams and then EDI processes. So we make sure that the impact is that we want to make is something that is of actual benefit. So the next bit I'm going to speak about, and I think Karen again mentioned this, was how it's so interesting that over the last year, so the public procurement notice, which is an extension of the Social Value Act that was published in 2012, that came into effect in January this year. And it basically says that we have to allocate 10% of our targets towards social value if we want to win work in the future, right? So it's so interesting how over the past year, social value has been spoken about a lot more. People are a lot more interested because obviously there is stakes for them now. You know, the future of work winning relies on social value, and that 10%, also just to highlight, it's at a minimum. So this is standard practice. It's not necessarily best practice, and that 10% isn't necessarily going to be something that's going to keep us competitive. Something else that's really valuable that came out with that public procurement notice, and again Karen touched on this, was the social value model. So the social value model has 5 key themes, and I think this is basically the how and the guidance to delivering social value. So those 5 themes are COVID recovery, tackling economic inequality, fighting climate change, equal opportunity and well-being. And I think from those themes you can see the sort of external community engagement part of social value, as well as the internal part of social value. So I think how do we essentially ensure that what we're doing is of material impact or material benefit, and that's through measurement. So how do you essentially quantify a very subjective experience? How do you allocate a subjective value to that? I think it's really interesting to think about. I don't actually have the answer. I think very few people have the answer. I know we're looking at measurement tools like Social Value UK, and I think maybe the key in this is the process of how we're capturing the data. I know that Skanska is currently looking at using the Social Value Portal UK, so I think a lot of businesses are at the moment, and we certainly use them as a training provider. In terms of social value, and again, Karen touched on this, potentially becoming a tick box exercise, I'm finding as well that it can happen so easily. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think when we're measuring it, I think again that can happen really, really easily. So sorry, just wrote a few notes. So I think that process of capturing the data, I think in order to ensure that we're actually having that material benefit and we're capturing what that material benefit is, so we can measure how much of what we're doing is of that material benefit. Obviously the community engagement, individual engagement, and making sure we're having those conversations and capturing that data in the right way is key. So again, going back to the potential tick box exercise when it comes to social value, it is a real possibility. And what I'll sort of finish up by saying is that with the legislation and the PPN, we know that in order to win work and to win work going forward, we have to allocate that percentage of targets. So in order for this industry to survive, we need to invest the resource, right? So whether that's time, money, human resource, we have to invest that anyway to win work in the future. Why would we not ensure that there is material benefit and impact for the individuals and the communities that are affected by our work? And that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that insight. Our last speaker now is going to be Michelle, if I can get this thing to pop up for you. I'm just giving you control now. I would just like to flag to the audience as well, at the end of Michelle's presentation, there's going to be a short 2-minute video, which will be with sound, but there will just be a tiny little delay while that starts up. So we will just all pause for a second, but it will pop up without any too much problem. So Michelle, you should have presenter mode now.
Can you see my screen?
We could briefly and then it disappeared. If you go, yeah, now we can.
Yep.
Perfect.
Hello.
Perfect.
It's really off-putting because I can't see anyone on this call today. So I'm going to start with a little bit of an intro. So my name's Michelle McSorley and I work for Wates Residential, and Wates Residential is part of the Wates Group, which is a leading construction, property services and development company, which is now in its 4th generation of family ownership. And my role is the community investment team manager within that department of Wates Residential that currently operates within across London and the South, and working with our public sector partners to build more and better homes, really as a driven and shared vision that everyone deserves a great place to live. And my role is really to oversee the social value delivery. And I fundamentally believe that genuine social value is a foundation in which people can build their lives and contribute to thriving communities. And last year we launched, as a group, we launched our Creating Opportunity strategy, a really well thought out, robust strategy, which will, I suppose, for us at Wates, you know, we all have KPIs that we've got to support and reach our clients' priorities. However, I think we truly believe that, you know, these tick boxes that people often talk about, they tick themselves if you do social value from the ground up, you know, really embedding from grassroots level and delivering against not just priorities from the client, but actually what's the community need and how do we support and address that? And some of our social value strategic aims are, you know, leaving lasting legacies in communities where we live and work, and demonstrate that that we're a business that can be a force for good. But not only that, when we think, you know, about us as a business, we have a guiding framework, you know, which says that together we will inspire better ways of creating places, communities and businesses for tomorrow. And, you know, by creating and delivering social value, and why is it important to us? You know, it enhances and helps us develop deeper relationships, not only with our customers, but our supply chain and the wider stakeholders, but it aligns us with partners that are committed to a social change, but also allows us to explore and enables us to source a more diverse, responsible and innovative supply chain that fits within our core values, our Wates values, and supports our overarching strategy. Now, I got a call last week and said, Michelle, can you come and present at this webinar? What we'd like you to do is talk about a real life construction project. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what, I've got many that we're currently delivering in Wates Residential. But this one really stood out for me because I wanted to be real, you know, a real life construction project. Gascoigne West 1 is a real project. It isn't finished yet. We've had our challenges, just like everyone else throughout the past year and a half. And I just wanted to highlight on some of that and what it looks like. What does social value look like on the ground? How do we deliver it? What does it mean to people? How do we make a difference to people's lives? So Gascoigne West 1 is based right in the heart of Barking, and it's 201 units, 194 apartments and 7 townhouses with a play garden, with a play space and communal gardens. We started it in April 2019 and we're due to finish in February in 2022. Now, as you all know, most of you on the call today will be from construction or housing or one within the industry. And as you know, when we start a job, most of our clients or may say, there's your KPIs. These are the things that we really want you to achieve. Yeah, this is the box ticking. Yeah, this is where good social value models, good strategies really embedded throughout the business from the top down, from the bottom up. You know, we don't have to tick these KPI boxes because actually we're doing this anyway, you know. And it's not about us making us feel good. This is about making a difference. This is about actually us as a responsible business and making sure that we're contributing to communities where we're living, working, and sometimes playing. So these are the targets, and you know, I'm not going to hide. I'm very transparent. You know, these are the targets. This is the RAG rating. This is where we're at. And I just wanted to put this up because even though we had a really challenging year, you know, the bits that we're still not hitting target and we've got very minimal amount of time on are the areas that actually it causes us to have a more face-to-face delivery. We're relying on outside agencies to be able to make these KPIs happen, you know, volunteering in the benefit of local community and all of those things. You know, a lot of it is a physical and practical thing that you need to do. And that's where we're sitting at Amber at the moment. So I just wanted to demonstrate, you know, when we're talking about live construction projects. And for this particular project and for Waits Residential, you know, how do we embed it? And I know some of my colleagues on the call today that we're also talking, we're talking about embedding social value. But for us, it's not just about me and my team and the people that are driving this agenda forward. It's about all of us taking ownership. So every single member of staff has been trained in social value, including the training behind the strategies and the importance of it and what difference that can make to somebody's life. But also on each site, and on particular in Gascoigne West site there, we have staff champions that drive this agenda. So we may have a champion in social value, education, safeguarding, environment, and they're fully aware and on board of not only the KPIs, but also what else can we do for that community? What else can we do to make us go the extra mile whilst we're there? You know, we carried out an audit around skills, hobbies and interests with all of our staff so that we can match them to the social value activity. You know, how do we bring people on this journey with us? It's not just the role of one person. Everybody is engaged, everyone delivers, and social value is embedded through the core of our business. We implemented a social value procurement strategy earlier on this year, where actually we have an ambition and an aim by 2025 to have social value mandated in every single contract through our procurement. And currently we're sitting about 75 to 80% for our procurement in Waits Residential. And again, supported with my colleagues from the group as well, we're reaching out to our central procurement, and we're also starting to train all of our preferred supply chain. And not just in social value, but also living wage, how to procure with social enterprises and environmental impacts within the industry. So as I mentioned, it came with its challenges. This site's come with many challenges, just like any others, but the biggest one for all was COVID-19. We've all been impacted by it. And you know, we had to think quite quickly. We had to think on our feet. You know, how do we reach the community? How do we support them? You know, we saw lots of people sort of thinking slightly outside the box, and we did too. I'm not going to read through this list. I wanted to just really highlight it. You know, some of the things that we've done, speaking to our supply chain and saying, look, you know, can we get some factory tours? Can we get insight videos? Can we do site visits and Q&A, live Q&A sessions and pre-employment program? We took to the virtual world in mass, you know, so these are just some that we're mentioning. But we also recognised that many SMEs, SEs and SEs face challenges as well with the short-term economic impacts and all of that. So we started thinking about business growth workshops, contract ready. How do we invite people along in a virtual world, but also support them for our social value offering? So beyond the KPIs then, really, you know, so what we've done is we put in pre-employment training for the long-term unemployed. Now, part of our creating opportunity strategy says that we will support individuals furthest from the workforce. And individuals that we're thinking about are long-term unemployed, NEETs, people living with a disability, people that are in the care system or just about to leave the care system, ex-offenders, ex-servicemen and women. So we've taken this on board and we've realised that actually beyond those KPIs that were set, we can really make a difference. And some of the areas that we're making a difference, in particular to this particular site, was traineeships for care leavers, you know, bringing someone else out on temporary licence from prison, you know, who's going to be released back to the borough. Work experience for career returnees, you know, that have been out of the career for a little while, and you can see some images there. But one of the other things is, you know, working with Be First, you know, our client, the framework. In that framework, there's also lots of other contractor developers. So I thought about it and I thought, well, actually, let's set up a collaboration meeting. Doesn't happen very often, you know, Waits working with the likes of Wilmot Dixon or McLaren's or one of our competitors, but we did. And it's working really well within the borough, and you can see some of the images there. And again, you know, Waits leading and supporting and funding a wider event for social enterprises in the East London area and inviting all of those other contractor developers to take part so that we can support the growth of those social enterprises. So, you know, just a few, I just wanted to add a few images here. So, you know, when this top image, this young man here with the thumbs around him, we created a video around site safety. You know, normally we go in and we do a site safety talk. Well, we created a video with young people, for young people, because there's a lot of development happening in the borough, and that's now being used and shared with all of the other construction companies working in the borough. We launched, so when we think about growing young talent and inspiring young people into the industry, we launched a construction book last year aimed at Key Stage 2, all about different careers and different career paths into this amazing industry that you and I may be working every single day. You know, how do we inspire young people to think about career paths of choices and not chances? You know, we don't have careers of chances. If we're going to reduce this skills gap, how do we do that? You know, so we launched the Top Trumps. We created Top Trumps. We saw throughout COVID the inequality, lots of it, you know, so making sure that we were, this image you can see here with the bags at the bottom, you know, giving out lunches through summer holidays, collecting food banks. On the bottom left corner there's a image to the site tours. You know, how do we inspire young people to feel like they belong to that community and they're not being done to? You know, how do we engage in their art projects and display them? And then, you know, environmental projects. But just lastly, there is a piece of land that was going to be dormant between phases 2, 1 and 3, and it's going to be dormant for 5 to 6 years. And in phase 2, Gascoigne West phase 2, actually we were removing a park, and that meant that there would be one park less for this community. So Be First and ourselves and some of our other key partners come together, and Be First connected with a lot of the community and set up a forum. And on the back end of that forum, we created the Phoenix Park, a pocket park, which was really all about people coming together in co-design, co-creation, diverse and represented voices from across the community, embedding that circular economy. So phase 2 of that development, we took a lot of the products from that demo and we implemented into this temporary movable park. And then thirdly, the stewardships of the community are going to maintain that. So I'm going to hand over to Jordan, who's going to leave us on a very short video.
Brilliant, that should be playing in a second.
Right, on co-design Pocket Park, and it is going to be a good session.
All those who've been part of this process have brought energy, enthusiasm and care. They care about the community that they're living in.
Yeah, I joined the forum, because the idea of being part of the design and redevelopment of the community, to me, felt, very fulfilling.
The reason I wanted to join the Gascoigne Residents Forum is because as a shared ownership resident, I wanted to take this opportunity to give my voice out, to improve the area.
I've learned how fun and rewarding co-design can be, and how by exploring these ideas collaboratively and creating together from different perspectives, you can evolve the design for the better and address the community's needs.
So here we are on the Pocket Park. Residents have turned out to make a joint effort with ourselves and Waits. The sun's shining, it's been a brilliant day.
The vision of the Phoenix Park demonstrates great social value through working in collaboration with all the key partners, the co-design with the residents, the hours that the residents have put in through volunteering, the sustainability through recycling materials from the demolition at Gascoigne West Phase 2, and the donations of time and materials from the Waits supply chain. For example, the storage unit, the tyres that are going to be used as part of the gym areas, the salt course, and most importantly, the Gascoigne Residents Forum. We thank you for your passion, your drive in creating this great space that will allow residents to come together and for relationships to form. Thank you.
Brilliant. I just love to ask our panelists to all please turn their cameras back on, and you all will be muted right this second, but if you can unmute yourselves as well, just so we can all join in for the Q&A. Karen and Sarah, if you want to turn your cameras back on. Michael, I think you're back with us.
I am back with you. I haven't got a camera.
No, that's cool. I just want to check you're all there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think maybe a great place to start in the first instance is just a question that I have, and probably Michelle and Michael, I'll ask this in relation to the to the specific projects that you spoke about, and Sarah and Karen, if maybe you could give us an example of this from one of the specific projects you highlighted. What is the biggest challenge with embedding social value from the outset on these projects? Like, what was the biggest challenge, getting all of this in place? Because what you hear is often, it gets too far down the line and people are trying to backfill social value into a project. So with reference to these schemes, or in the case of Karen and Sarah, any schemes specifically, it'd be great to know what the biggest challenge was and how you overcame that. Michael, do you want to go first, as I can't see you?
Okay, that's very fair. As you can't see me, you might as well do that.
Throw it to you.
I do think it is all about, and ours is a very specific, targeted example rather than, but I think it applies on a broad base to everything you do, but I think it has to start right at the beginning. There is no backfilling with this kind of thing. And I think one of the challenges of it is not to become patronizing, not to sort of necessarily assume that everybody wants to be a volunteer and everybody wants to do these things, but to go gently out into your community and find what the issues and problems may be, and try and work really hard to see whether there is something you can produce, not necessarily loads of money, but time. It always is time that you can give to try. And I always think it's sort of step by step. If you just find one little thing you can do and offer and then improve, then it'll probably spin out into something else and something else. And I would just say, step by step, care, but right from the beginning. I don't think it's something you can sort of think, oh gosh, we've got to do that. Let's put some social value into this. In fact, I don't even particularly love the word social value. I just think it's communicating with people and with your neighborhood. I think it's, I don't have any better words, but
no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Michelle, did you want to pick up off the back of that maybe?
In regards to challenges, I think the only challenge that we found on this particular area is the partners actually, and the partners going, well, you can actually do that for us, and you're not going to charge me. You know, trying to break those barriers and build those relationships was quite hard to start with, but I think over a period of time you forge better relationships and you build trust with each other. So I think that was our biggest challenge in regards to delivering with the community or bringing, you know, our staff are all on board. It's embedded right across the piece. And it's not, like I said to you in my presentation there, it's not about ticking boxes. The boxes will tick themselves for the client's KPIs. It's about making sure that we're delivering meaningful social value that will make an impact to individuals and communities.
Brilliant. Karen, did you have an example for us and how to overcome it?
Yeah, I think, you know, I suppose the biggest challenge really in anything that one does is actually about that kind of clarity, and actually being clear about what the expectations actually are and what the opportunities actually are. And so if you can kind of clearly define that, what does it mean? What is it you're looking for? Where are the impacts likely to be? Where are the opportunities? And by setting your stall out really from the very earliest opportunity, actually that's where you get maximum benefit. And quite often people that you will speak to, particularly in my background is construction, so I understand construction really well, getting to grips with professional services, but people don't really understand, what do you mean by social value? What does that look like? And again, by explaining what it is, what's involved, what the benefits actually are, then absolutely people will, you know, they generally rally and say, oh yeah, I can do that. And then by that, again, taking the kind of Michael's point is that kind of slow, steady, actually you're really beginning to build your influence. And once people can actually, they see what can happen, what results are, they're then coming to the party more excited, more motivated. But I think if you, again, I suppose the challenge is always about outlining it right from the very beginning and why it's important, what you can do, what difference you can make, and then demonstrating that's where you kind of really begin to build that sphere of influence, and people get excited about being part of it. And that's when great things actually happen, like the case of the Michelle's video there demonstrates what can actually happen, which is great.
Brilliant. Sarah?
I think just to reiterate what Michelle, Karen and Michael have said, but I think the biggest challenge is the mindset shift. And I think whole projects, teams, businesses understanding that it isn't a case of, okay, well, there's a social value manager, can you please go and do the social value now? It's something that needs to be embedded into processes that already exist, into delivery teams that already exist, and it's explaining why it's important, the impact that you can potentially have if you get it right, and the benefit not only to the communities but internally as well for our own employees and our own staff. I think it's brilliant that you did that survey, Michelle, where you went to your teams and your projects to ask where their interests lie, because you're not going to want to get volunteers that want to spend their time, even if it is a paid volunteering day, investing their time in something that they don't particularly have any interest in. It's meeting people halfway, and I think if we can do that, if everyone could just have this sort of standard understanding of what we're trying to achieve, it's much easier. And I think I slowly I've begun to do that, and I think it's also not always packaging it as social value. I also don't like the term, Michael. I don't think it sort of explains what it does. If anything, it should be societal value. Of course, there's a social part of it, but it's not the whole part of it. And if you don't always package it, maybe a social value, and sort of demonstrate the why and the how, I think you get that message across a lot more clearly.
Brilliant.
I think,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
well, I was just going to say, I think probably when we're talking about projects, what it really has to start with is that initial consultation with local people. And to be honest, I see enough consultation, and there are enough, professional organizations that do it, and they put a big model in a room and they invite everybody to come and look at it, and they note their comments, and it doesn't mean anything. And it's really trying to make an effort right at the outset of a project, not to hand the pencil over and get someone else to design it for you, but to listen to what people's aspirations and objectives and everything are. And if you've started from there, then you will begin to realize the things you can do, and like, your lovely little pocket park or something, it'll come out of that. Whereas if you started from, well, here's my scheme and here's a model of it, and if you want to have a look at it, that's fine, but we're submitting it next week, then you're lost already, and I think it has to start very early in the process if you're really going to communicate, which is my thing about it, is communicating with local people about what's going to happen in their area and why. And of course, it's got all sorts of horrible commercial pressures on it, but there's still room to make these kind of social contributions. And actually, as you, I think, hinted, Michelle, or one of you did, that your clients are normally saying, how much is that going to cost me? And they can be quite surprised that it doesn't cost them very much, but it really makes a difference to the whole feeling about their project. It's valuable even in commercial terms, because they don't get the resistance that they would otherwise.
I'm going to be super cheeky. I know it's 3 o'clock, but we started a couple of minutes late, and I just had a really good question come in that I don't think will take it shouldn't take too long to answer. So I might just put it all to, it was directly to you, Michael, but if anybody has any other questions. So it was, do you have any good examples of the sorts of questions when you're trying to communicate with the local community to help clients develop meaningful projects and locality-specific targets rather than going in with preconceived targets and goals? Do you have any suggestions on the way people should go about that? So I'm going to Michael in the first instance. If anybody has any other thoughts, and then I'll wrap things up, I promise.
I don't know that I have. I do. It is magic when you are doing consultation, and it doesn't necessarily happen so often, but when somebody says something and you think, that's absolutely right. I really appreciate that would be easy to deliver. It's, because everybody would like the development to be a park, so that comment doesn't really help. But someone who gets what you've got to try and do, which is a development that's going to be commercially successful, but add something to that that's good for the community. And when you get that, you respond to it and people realize you have, it's a wonderful moment, and the whole development starts to go forward. But I can think of a whole number of sort of small things of that nature that have happened, but I can't think of that big picture question that would change the world. I think it's a whole series of listening to people and enabling them, making them feel they were part of the process, if nothing else.
Brilliant. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add off the back of that? No, if we're all good, I might wrap it up because I'm very conscious I've already kept you for longer than I said I would. So I really appreciate all of you giving up your time today. It was a really insightful session. We had some good questions coming through from the audience. So a huge thank you to all our panelists. Big thank you to our audience as well for being so engaged. And just like to flag, this session's available on demand within about 45 minutes, as the 2 earlier sessions from Social Value Live today. So that's it from me. That's it for our live sessions of Social Value Live, but our live blog will still be going for a couple of hours. So please feel free to check that out on Building Design and Housing Today. That's it. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Well done.